Hi everyone, Stepan here. I'm going to continue covering the games from the Serbia Chess Open. In this game I faced a woman grandmaster from India, a very strong player, and I prepared something fun, as you're going to see, a position that I really enjoy playing. So she plays the Najdorf, and I went into the main line with knight c3, Najdorf, and I played the Zagreb variation. Now usually she plays with the Scheveningen small center, she does not play e5, and all of these moves are just the main line: bishop e7, castles, bishop e3, queen to c7. And now white has a couple of options. White can play safely in two different ways, actually. White can play with a4, and the idea is to blockade the b pawn, continue with b5, and then start occupying the b6 square, gaining an advantage on the queen side. The other idea is to just continue queen to e2, continue developing, controlling some key squares. And there are two aggressive moves, f4 and g4. I played g4. The idea behind g4 is that it's not really easy to develop this knight to d7, where it would normally like to go in these sort of hedgehog positions, where you want to play b6, bishop b7, etc. Because if you play knight b to d7, then g5, and your f6 knight has to go to e8, so that's not very good. So the main move is knight to c6. I continued g5 anyway. The f knight goes to d7 now, and f4 defending the pawn. And this is a known position. It's very aggressive for white. It's very hard to defend for black, and it's tricky to play for black, because the queen is coming to h5, the rook has a very natural route to the h3 square, and basically white is attacking straight from the start. These two bishops are looking pretty good as well. They are able to come into the game either via the e4 square for the light squared bishop, or the d4 square for the dark squared bishop. Now black has the option to take on d4. And my intention was to take with the queen, and in this position e5 or d5 don't work. Yeah, I'm sorry about the bells ringing. I'm outside, and it's not a holiday in Croatia, but it's, for some reason, the bells are ringing. I don't know why. Yeah, in this position, if they go d5, then simply e d5, and white is much better. If bishop c5, the queen simply retreats. And if e5, then knight d5. And, of course, this position is just lost for black. So in this position, my opponent went rook e8, which is the best move and the main move. Queen h5, starting to put pressure, and bishop f8. You can also go g6 and chase the queen away. This is actually the main move, and then you go bishop to f8 later. The idea is basically you want your rook on e8, you want your bishop on g7, and you want your knight on f8 defending the h7 square. Okay, she started with bishop f8, rook f3, g6, queen h4, bishop g7, and in this position my knight is hanging. I don't really want to defend it, so you just exchange. Knight takes, pawn takes, and rook to h3, forcing knight to f8. And here we reach the critical position, which I don't think has been played before, only once, I think. Yes, in the game between Marinkovic Slaviša and Veličković Sasha in 2003. But I knew an idea similar to this. You play pawn to e5, you sacrifice a pawn. The idea behind this pawn sacrifice is very clear. It's actually threefold. Firstly, this bishop is much worse now with the pawn on e5, especially if black captures and the black pawn remains on e5. The bishop on g2 is very active, and it's open now, so it's a much better piece. And most importantly, the c3 knight, which was useless, is now coming into f6. In conjunction with the queen and the rook, that's a very, very, very dangerous setup. Now, black has two options. In the only game I've seen before with this pattern, black played d5, and objectively that is the best move. However, black should be much, much, much worse. The engine gives this as +2. Practically, I think it's even worse. The idea is bishop to c5, putting pressure on the knight. And if queen a5, you actually don't capture straight away, you chase the queen away with b4. The queen drops back to d8, and now you can just continue building up with knight to e2. You don't really want to cash out straight away, the knight is not going anywhere, nothing is chasing your bishop away. h6 or h5 are impossible, so you just go knight e2, knight d4, and you can see that this is an overwhelming position. Black basically cannot move any of his pieces apart from the queen, and the queen can only go to c7, c8 and b8. So d5 understandably was not played in the game. I mean, if I'm playing black, I would never play d5. It's just a move that gives you, well, it's a move that means that you're going to be suffering for the rest of the game. My opponent thought for 45 minutes in this position. I had an hour and a half on the clock, and in the end she took on e5, and I was expecting this move, and I went in straight away, which was a mistake, and it was such a subtle mistake. Okay, so first I'm going to show you what I did, then I'm going to show you the correct move. I went knight e4 straight away. Okay, she can take another pawn, that's fine, e4. And now knight f6 check, bishop takes is forced, g takes, and h5 is forced, because I'm threatening to mate her with queen h6, queen g7, so pawn to h5. And now I still had a way to get a better position. Unfortunately, I saw it and I didn't go for it because I thought that what I did was more aggressive and better. That's just a complete misjudgment. What I should do in this position is queen takes f4, queen takes f4. Of course, queen f4 threatens queen h6, so she has to take. Queen f4, bishop f4, and after e5, attacking my rook, I go rook e3. And I actually saw this, didn't want to go for it because it was an endgame, I wanted to keep attacking. Now, for example, bishop f5, rook takes, bishop takes, here, here, and here. This, of course, should be better for white, because I have the bishop pair, I have this annoying pawn on f6, but black has the e6 square for both of his pieces, so these two are never going to be dislodged, and basically my 2-to-1 and my bishop pair is the only advantage I have. Instead of that, I played a move that just loses the game straight away. I played bishop to c5. My idea was still, of course, to take the knight, to go here and try to checkmate. Unfortunately, knight h7 was played, and in this position my queen does not have the g5 square, and the f6 pawn is not defended. So there's nothing I can do. So I went bishop e7, e5, and it's all over now. It's just all over. Before we continue, before you see how I lost the game, let me show you, after e5 and takes, what I should have done. What I should do is take the pawn first. Just take one pawn, the e4 square is not going away. I still have all the advantages in the position, and of course the engine thinks this is completely winning, so there's really nothing black can do. There are two options. If bishop e5, then I just go knight e4, and h5 again is forced. I go bishop to f3, threatening to take on h5. Now this is an engine move, rook b8 is an engine move. I'm not sure a human would be able to play this. It's just completely, well, it has nothing to do with the position. I mean, getting the rook into play to b4, fine, pinning the knight, but the knight is defended twice. So bishop h5, rook b4, and bishop simply back to f3. It's not made because the bishop and the knight are covering. So for example, bishop to b2, I just go rook b1. Again, the engine thinks rook e4, bishop e4, but this is just over. And after f5, if h5 straight away, then I can just take it. Bishop e5, excuse me, h7 check, king h8, and bishop f4. And this cannot be taken because queen f6 is mate in 2, so he would have to basically retreat. She would have to basically retreat. So e5 was a very strong move, and without thinking after she took, I just played knight e4 because that was my idea. I didn't take time to check the position. I had an hour and a half on the clock. I could have spent an hour on this position. I could have spent at least 45 minutes still being ahead on the clock. Yeah, but after what happened, h5, knight h7, I played rook f3, bishop e6, and black is now consolidating. I have absolutely nothing in the position. I'm never getting into g5. And also, this pawn is in the way of my rook getting to g3. If my rook could get to g3, then queen h5 is a threat that cannot be defended. Rook f2, king h8, rook d1, bishop g4, and here I actually blundered the exchange as well. Rook d1 blunders the exchange, because if I move my rook, then g5 wins the queen. So I went rook f to d2, making room for my queen. She took, I took. Rook a d8. Gave the exchange back, and yeah, we don't have to go any further. There's absolutely nothing I can do. This is just busted 3 pawns up with a completely safe king. So coming back to this position, I mean, I'm happy that this wasn't my preparation, this idea. I'm happy that I managed to use a pattern I know that's played in the opening, and I didn't play it successfully because I didn't follow up on it correctly, but I did find it, and next time I'm in a position like this, I'm going to know everything. So the Zagreb-Najdorf is a complicated opening, and patterns in these attacks tend to be very complicated, at least for someone of my level. Hopefully next time it goes better. Yeah, so I had a promising attacking position. I'm happy that I didn't play a cowardly, boring opening. I attacked her, it backfired. What can you do? Thank you very much for watching. See you tomorrow, guys. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.